And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here, and today we're going to take a look at a game that is kind of a sequel to a previous game that I've reviewed. We're going to look at Tsuro of the Seas by Calliope Games. Now this is a game for 2 to 8 players. It's a tile placement game on which you're going to place tiles and move around a board, trying to be the last player surviving on that board. So real quick, we'll take a look at the game, what you get inside it and how it plays, and then we'll come back here and get my final opinions on it. So here you can see the setup of Tsuro of the Seas. Now the game is going to play pretty similar base-wise to the game of Tsuro. Each player is going to have some of these tiles, and they'll choose one tile each round to place out on the board. And you'll see that these tiles have paths on them. Now, each player is going to have their own ship that will start around the outside of this board. And when you place a tile, you're going to place it as such, and then you're going to follow the route on the tile that matches where your ship is. So you'd place it and move like this. And that's going to be the base mechanic of the game, trying to stay on this board the longest. So if you connect yourself to the outside, you'll go off the board and you'll die, basically, and you'll be out of the game, while other players will continue playing. But unlike regular Tsuro, the game has some additions to it. So each player will be playing with these tiles, and this is going to be the base of the game. But in addition to that, you're going to have this blue-backed or dark blue-backed deck of tiles, and these are called Daikaiju tiles. And what these do is they add a little bit more of a unpredictable or somewhat random element to the game, in that before you move on your turn, you're going to be rolling dice. If you roll a 6, 7, or 8 on 2 dice, these Daikaiju, which will be pre-placed on the board, will move around. And you'll see here they have numbers on them. So if you roll a 6, 7, or 8, all of the Daikaiju on the board will move. Then you will roll a die, and you'll see which direction they move. So you'll see here, these tiles here have numbers on them. So in this corner here, you'll see a 4 on the top right-hand corner, and it has a rotation. It means if you roll a 4 on that second roll, it will rotate in that direction. And then you have the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 5 around the outside, which show you directions they'll move if that number's rolled. 6 will place a new Daikaiju out on the board. Now, at the beginning of the game, you're going to set several of these up, depending on how many players you have. If you have a small number of players, you're going to put 6 out on the board, and the more players you have, the less you'll put out. And the way you'll put these out is you'll roll these 2 dice. So you'll see here, I rolled 6 and 2. So I'll find the 6 on the board, and the 2 spot for blue, so 6 gold, 2 blue, means that my first Daikaiju is going to get placed here. And then I would roll for the rest of these, placing them out in the same manner. If, let's say I'm playing in a 4-player game, I'd put 6 out, and I'll set up the board right now, and then we'll continue. So now that I've got the board set up, I would rotate all of these in a random direction, and then I would flip them over. And this is going to be the starting position of the Daikaiju on the board. Now, once I flip them all over, everybody's going to be able to place their guys around the board. And you're going to place your guy wherever you want to start. So let's say we have a 4-player game. Maybe green wants to start here, and this orange color wants to start over there. Maybe white wants to start right here, and blue would like to start, let's say he starts here. All right? And everybody's going to get their 3 tiles that they get to start the game. So you'll have 3 tiles in your hand. Now, at the start of your turn, let's say that green's going first. They're going to roll the 2 dice. And they're going to see what they get. So they got a 7. Well, 7 means that the Daikaiju move. Now, we would roll another die, and we'd get a 6. Well, this is a bad example. This means we'd place a new Daikaiju out on the board by rolling the both dice and seeing where it goes. So it would be 2, 4, and it would go in this spot right here. Well, it can't go there. But basically what would happen there is I would place the new Daikaiju out on top of the old one, and the old one would be killed and removed from the game. But let's say that instead of that, I rolled a different number. I rolled, wow, apparently all I can roll is 6s. I rolled a 1. I would look and see which of these guys has the lowest number in the top right-hand corner. So here we have a 1, and he's gold. He's going to move first, and the 1 is in the corner, which means he rotates. Then we would look and see if there are any more 1s out on the board. There are not, so we would move to the 2s. And we'd look for the 1 direction. This guy moves this way, and this guy moves this way, but gold always moves first. So the gold one moves, then the blue one moves, and they've kind of swapped positions there. We find the 3, and he's going to move this way because of the 1 here. The 4 says that this guy is going to move out this way. And the 5, which is right here, says that this guy's going to move here. And this is the new position of the Daikaiju. Now, after that's done, you can place one of your tiles on the board. And you have to place one of your tiles out on the board. And you have to place it so that it doesn't kill you, basically. So at the beginning of the game, it's going to be pretty easy. It's green's turn, so maybe he wants to play this tile like this. and he's going to move along the appropriate path until he stops. And then it's going to go to the next player's turn. He'll draw back up to 3 tiles, and the next player will go again, and they'll roll the dice. And they'll see what they get. Well, 5 is not enough to move the Daikaiju. It has to be a 6, 7, or 8. So in this case, they don't move, and maybe white takes their turn with their 3 tiles, placing a tile out on the board. Now, they couldn't, for example, place this tile, because if they were to place this tile, it would take them right back off of the board, and they would lose the game because they have run off the end of the board. So this is not a valid first tile placement, but they could place this one and move along it. And you're going to continue on in this manner until all of the ships are destroyed. Now, there are several ways to have your ship destroyed. One is that you are forced to place a tile that will move you off the edge of the board. This will destroy you. The second is if you are at the start of your turn and you're the active player, and you roll the dice. So let's say it was Green's turn again, and he rolled an 8, okay? At this point, let's say that he rolled the dice again, and he rolled a 2 for the movement. This would move this Daikaiju in front of him. At this point, he is unable to play a wake tile, which means that he would have to move into this Daikaiju, and he would lose the game because he'd be destroyed by the dragon there. Another way you can be destroyed is if, for example, this guy was here, and he moved directly onto the wake tile already occupying someone. That would destroy this tile and everything on it, removing it from the game, and Green would now die. So those are the ways you can be removed from the board. The last player to survive on the board is going to be the winner. Now, these Daikaiju can also destroy each other. If one moves on top of another one, it destroys it. If they move on top of empty wake tiles, they destroy them. So you'll see that you're going to kind of be moving and shifting the board as you play, trying to avoid these Daikaiju so that you don't get eliminated from the game, and whoever's out there last is going to be the winner. Now, for those people who kickstarted the game, you're going to get several promotional tiles that you can add into your game. You're going to get several tiles that get added to the wake tile pile, the tiles that you place out on the board, and you're going to get a few tiles that get added to the Daikaiju deck. So these tiles are going to be various ways that modify the play of the game. You're going to have kind of this whirlpool tile here. It's called, I don't know the actual name of it, but it's kind of a vortex. What this is if you're ever about to be eliminated on your turn, be it by running into a Daikaiju, I guess, if a Daikaiju is about to kill you, you can place this tile as a wake tile out on the board. Now, you can place it on your normal turn, or you can place it to avoid getting destroyed. But when you place it, anything that moves onto this, so let's say White just decided to place it, and he moves onto it, he is going to teleport to a different spot on the board, and everything else that is with him, anything else that moves onto that tile, be it a Daikaiju or another ship at a later point, will teleport as well. And at the end of his turn, he's going to roll these dice and find out where he moves to. So 1, 1. He would move to 1 and 1. And if there's nothing there, he has to place a wake tile from his hand and choose one of the paths. So maybe he places one of his wake tiles here, and he chooses a path to move on to. And now it would continue on as normal, but basically this is a way to save you from being destroyed by Daikaiju, or to move randomly around the board to make you move into a new position. The other thing you're going to get to add to those wake tiles is going to be these cannon type tiles. They have a fancy Japanese name, but I don't know it, but basically these cannon tiles are going to be drawn, and if you draw it and you decide you don't want it, you can discard it and draw another tile, or you can hold up to 2 of these in your hand, and basically they protect you from a Daikaiju when you're about to be destroyed by it. You can play this tile anytime a Daikaiju would destroy you, and it's going to kill the Daikaiju, removing it from the board, and you're safe for that turn. And there are 5 of those to add into your deck. Now, in addition to all of those, you have the 3 tiles that you add to the Daikaiju deck. These are going to be different types of things. So you have 2 tsunami waves. One of them, the gold one, gets added to the deck, and the blue one gets set aside until the gold one is drawn out. Now, what this does is it replaces a Daikaiju on your game board. And when it comes out, you're going to face it randomly, and it's going to be matched up on the outside by the blue tile. So this blue tile would point its 2-edge towards the 2-edge of the tsunami. And this tsunami is essentially believed to be in all of the positions left and right of the tile. So the 2 is the facing, so it takes up this entire row. And anybody that enters or starts their turn here has to roll a die in order to see if they survive. So when you're here, you need to beat the current facing. So right now it's 2. You would roll, and you got a 2, so you're safe there. If you rolled a 1, you would have been destroyed by the tsunami. Now this tile is going to stay this way until 1 full round of play has been done. And before it goes back to the active player's turn who started with this tile, it's going to rotate and move forward 1. And the blue tile will rotate appropriately to show that it's now on the 3. And the next time anybody's in this row, they're going to have to roll a 3 or better in order to survive. On the next turn, it's going to rotate with the 4 side and move forward 1 more. And then it's going to stay at 4 until it moves off of the board and is removed from the game. So basically, this makes an entire row of tiles dangerous and gets harder and harder to avoid as the game goes on, more and more difficult to defeat, and if you get and roll underneath the number, for example, if it was 4 and I rolled a 3, you'd be destroyed and removed from the game. The last new bonus tile you get if you're a Kickstarter backer is this Whirlpool tile, which also goes in the Daikaiju deck, so you'd have it in here and it would come out. And basically, this is going to move any time that the Daikaiju don't move. So when you roll these 2 dice, if you roll something that's not a 6, 7, or 8, let's say you roll a 12, you're going to roll a die again, and this tile, if it was out, would move in the direction that it says. So for example, I rolled a 3, it would move this way. When this happens, this tile is going to remove absolutely anything it touches. So if it comes across a ship, it will remove the ship. If there was a ship and a tile here, it would remove it from the game. If there was just a tile, it would remove it from the game, and it would also remove any Daikaiju on the board that were on that spot. So basically, it's going to destroy anything in its path. And if any of these tiles move off of the board, they're removed from the game. But you can never have less than 3 tiles, so if several of them move off of the board, you must roll to place a new one. Anyhow, with these new tiles, you get a little bit more variety, and at the end of the game, the player who is still on the board is still the winner. Well, there you have it. That is Tsuro of the Seas. If you like the original Tsuro, I think you're definitely going to like Tsuro of the Seas. If you thought that perhaps Tsuro was too straightforward somehow, if you thought that maybe it didn't have enough going on in terms of chaos, not necessarily randomness, but chaos, the Daikaiju tiles definitely add an element of that to it, which makes the game more exciting. Now, there's still a strategic element in, spatially moving yourself around that board, avoiding those Daikaiju, cleverly placing tiles so that you can loop back around, and there's definitely strategy there. It's fun for anywhere from 2 up to 8 players, although with 8 it can be very chaotic. But overall, I would say Tsuro of the Seas has a nice addition in the form of those little bit random, chaotic Daikaiju tiles that makes the game more exciting. So if that sounds good to you, check out Tsuro of the Seas from Calliope Games.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.